My brother Kea, he knew it better than anybody. We had decades of time on that river, riverboarding, kayaking, rafting, fishing, taking naps. He unexpectedly passed away. So we took his vision, his passion, his knowledge, his being, and brought that to the river with the Aspen Valley Land Trust, and that's where R3 River Riparian Restoration came from. We always called the confluence of these two rivers the point.
Here we are at the confluence of the Roaring Fork and Crystal Rivers. And in 2017, it was brought to our attention that cattle had broken through the fence and had overgrazed this area and significantly impacted it just by kind of their moving through the landscape.
Colorado Rocky Mountain School owns a piece of pasture land, part of the old Bar Fork Ranch, above the confluence of the two rivers. The school has kept that land in agriculture by leasing it out to local ranchers.
I'm Parker Nislanik. I am a part of Nislanik Beef. Our family's been in the cattle business for almost 60 years. Nislanik Beef has been leasing this property for running our bulls in the winter and the spring.
For decades, 100 years, the design had always been for the cattle to water from the stream.
Cattle don't generally like to put a whole lot of effort if they don't have to, but if that's the only place to get a drink, they're going to go down there and get a drink for sure, and they're going to do it at least twice a day.
The vegetation has been grazed down to bare mineral soil, so one of our main concerns is erosion.
In summer 2017, AVLT, who also holds a conservation easement on part of the school's property, contacted us about providing an alternative water source. We wanted to forever keep the cattle from the stream. We got in touch with some of our teachers in the science department to introduce the problem to our classes.
We really try to promote problem-based learning. Immediately, this presented itself as an opportunity for the kids to engage in real-world work and find an answer.
Figure out how much water this well can produce, and then figure out how much water we need. How much do we need?
Students came up with 3 different proposals, solution-based proposals, all at different scale and different budgets. The one that was selected was using these large, kind of earth-moving tires that they can cut in half and fill with water, provide the cattle year-round access. We had a few students who, outside of class entirely, took this on in a leadership capacity.
Lexi Meyer, Nima Ming, their interest and passion in the project got us all excited. A number of students helped write the grant proposals.
I initially became sort of involved in this project in my AP Environmental Studies class.
It was originally an extra credit project.
And then it kind of developed into more of a bigger role, so I became the grant writer for the R3 grant.
Our job was to secure the funding for drilling the new well and installing the watering systems for this project.
It turns out that getting water to the cows on this part of the mesa is more complicated than you might think. First, we had to drill a new well, buy a new well pump with enough capacity to deliver the water to the pasture. Then we had to install watering stations and dig deep trenches to deliver water to them. Local ranchers from the Nislanik family, as well as Steve Turley, helped us design the system and make sure that it would work properly. Once the watering stations were up and running, we turned our attention to fencing to keep the cattle away from the river's edge.
Top wire needs to be no higher than 42 inches so wildlife can jump over that wire. We also want that to be a smooth wire, again, to prevent entanglement, to prevent cuts and scrapes to wildlife. We usually recommend, in a wildlife-friendly situation, backing that fence up away from a slope or otherwise providing a flat area for their approach and landing so that they can still only be jumping over an effectively 42-inch high fence.
With the cattle off the river, we were excited to do some restoration planting to restore the damaged habitat.
So Robin reached out to me and was like, we need to source around 90 cottonwood trees to revegetate this riparian zone. You know, if you could start working on that. go for it. I have no idea how one goes about finding trees.
I'm gonna hold your hip, by the way.
Originally, we thought we needed like trees that were full-grown trees that were a few feet tall, and it turns out that it would have costed like $100,000 to buy 90 trees, even if they were just a few feet tall. And then we started looking just for pole cuttings, and that was when we started making progress.
We started up at the Bar Fork Dining Hall, sent a group of students across the river to harvest cottonwood poles, and they're making their way over here now.
When you think of planting trees, I originally thought of like, the leaves and the branches, but it's the roots that strengthen the bank. Just cutting off a branch and sticking it in the ground and having the roots do their thing. It's really interesting.
Incredibly impressed that this was a primarily student-led effort.
We're at the confluence of the Crystal and Roaring Fork River, and we're preparing the holes for the cottonwood planting.
It taught me how to not be boxed in by what I think I can do and just go for it, and that's how real change happens.
I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about like what I could do if I just dedicated my life to something like this, like how much more I could accomplish and how much more could be done.
In my life, on the Crystal River, in this valley, there's a lot of little bits. And most of those little bits were affected by other people doing a little bit. It's the drop in the pond, It's the ripple effect.
I've been working on this project for about an hour and a half. I'm a new recruit.
We're all freshmen, and we just heard about it like last week, so just started.
I've spent about 20 hours, probably over 2 months, working on this.
Maybe a 6-month project. I can't remember exactly when we started it.
I've probably been involved with the project for just over a year now.
We're here.
If they widen the hole enough with the drill, you could cut it like this.
I'm guessing that Einstein, when he did his theory of relativity, he probably thought that was only a little bit. And this is all about relativity. How does this relate to my life, my kid's life, my friend's life, wildlife's life, this valley's life?
I think if we get 10 or 15 done today, we'll be pretty happy with that. We can do another 10 in the fall, another 10 next spring, and just keep the project going over the next few years.
It's just a little bit and a lot of it.